Hello everyone, welcome to the Departamento Loratorum. My name is Max, and today I'd like to talk to you about the Dark Angels. We're going to be continuing this series exploring lesser-known successor chapters that you can base your army on, and today we're going to be looking at the descendants of the Dark Angels. While they don't have as many successor chapters as some other legions, there are still plenty of fun and interesting chapters that can trace their lineage to Lionel Johnson, and you may decide that you want to base your army off of one of these examples instead of their founder. The Dark Angels are a really cool chapter with a great aesthetic and a lot of established lore, and they've recently received some beautiful new models in this edition. But you might find that you prefer a chapter with the same aesthetic, but fewer established characters and plot lines, giving you the freedom to make up your own. Maybe you just vibe with the motivations or combat style of a specific successor more than with their progenitor, or maybe you just like their specific color scheme more. And, even if you were planning to create a custom Dark Angel successor for your army, you might still find these canon examples useful in guiding your own creative decisions. As previously mentioned, the Dark Angels don't have as many successors as some of their brother legions, despite their gene seed purity and impressive battle record. This is caused by the distrust that Imperial officials have towards the Dark Angels, as they are, by and large, an insular group that have a bad habit of abandoning their allies in the middle of a campaign for unexplained reasons, and are often accused of still acting as a legion in all but name. These accusations are not without merit, as the Sons of the Lion, collectively known as the Unforgiven, are a close-knit group of chapters that often defer to the Supreme Grand Master of the Dark Angels, and they have left in the middle of engagements to pursue other, secret duties. This is because the Unforgiven have a secret shame, that being the existence of the Fallen, traitors who betrayed the Legion during the Horus Heresy. The Dark Angels, and most of their successors, hide this knowledge from the Imperium at large, with even most battle brothers of the chapters being unaware of the Fallen's existence. Only the most senior and trusted members of each chapter, known as the Inner Circle, as well as the brothers of the Terminator-armored Deathwing 1st Company and Mounted Ravenwing 2nd Company, or their equivalent in a successor chapter, are aware of the Legion's biggest shame, and are dedicated to hunting down the Fallen across the galaxy and forcing them to repent. While the Dark Angels may not have the most successors, they still have more than can comfortably fit in one video, and some particularly notable examples will deserve their own solo spotlights. We're going to be covering 5 examples today, but if your favorite successor does not get a mention, please let me know in the comments so I can be sure to include them in future videos. These are just going to be summaries for each chapter, going over their most important traits, plot points, and engagements, in order to give you a good feel for their vibe and character, so you can decide if they're the right choice for you. Before we get started, I just want to mention that if this video does inspire you to start a Dark Angels army of your own, or pick up any new minis, I have an affiliate link with Geekery Games that you can use to get 5% off eligible orders. Just put in the code DEPARTLORE at checkout. Each purchase also helps the channel, so if you're looking for a discount on some Warhammer kits, check them out. I'll put a link to them in the description below. I also recently added memberships to the channel. You can get access to some cool perks like members-only polls, shoutouts in my videos, and early access to all videos. Of course, there's no obligation to join, but if you enjoy my content, please check it out. Now, without any further ado, let's get started with the oldest successor on this list, the Angels of Vengeance. First introduced in the Angels of Death Codex, all the way back in 2nd edition, the Angels of Vengeance are a second founding successor of the Dark Angels. They are less well known than some of the other Sons of the Lion, for they focus more on fighting the enemies of the Imperium than gaining glory and renown. The most defining trait of the chapter is their almost single-minded devotion to their goals, throwing themselves headlong into brutal combat and refusing to retreat in order to pursue their mission, even if it puts the survival of their chapter at risk. This has led to them almost being wiped out on several occasions, notably during the Forgotten Wars in M31 and M32 against the Fallen, and during the Siege of Sanopolis, after which it took the chapter almost a century to recover their numbers. While the Angels of Vengeance despise all of the Imperium's foes, they reserve a special hatred for the forces of chaos. They maintain equivalents to the Deathwing and Ravenwing companies of their parent chapter, calling their versions the Dreadwing and Raptorwing respectively, and have also maintained a close relationship with their founder. The Master of the 2nd Company of the Angels of Vengeance even served as the temporary Grand Master of the Ravenwing from 666 to 688 M38, after 3 Ravenwing Grand Masters were lost in quick succession during their hunt for the Fallen. Their homeworld is not stated, but it is known that they recruit from the planets Nachtwald and the Death World of Damnia. In M36, the Angels of Vengeance fought alongside the Dark Angels in the Siege of Dominus Prime, with both chapters deploying the full strength of their 1st companies in order to break a 5-year siege of a rebel fortress, taking a few of the traitors back to the Rock for questioning. They were also forced to purge the entire population of the Dark Angels' recruiting world of Grimm's Landing, after the Alpha Legion and Night Lords incited an uprising among the population. After the opening of the Great Rift, the chapter was one of half a dozen Unforgiven successors that was part of the massacre at Darkmoor. The Angels of Vengeance sent several companies to join in the hunt for the fallen angel Cypher, as psychic scrying traced his location to the shrine world of Darkmoor. However, when the strike force of over 1,000 Space Marines landed, they found themselves ambushed by demons, cultists, and traitor Astartes. Only 100 Marines managed to survive, and even then only by making use of a secret teleporter Cypher himself had used in his escape. The Angels of Vengeance wear all black armor and robes, with white and red detailing, and their symbol is a winged skull and a red cowl. Their Terminators also wear all black armor. They really love the color black, huh? While the Angels of Vengeance may not have as much lore as the other second founding successors of the Dark Angels, both of which will be receiving their own video, they still have their own fun niche among the Unforgiven. They're stubborn, even by the standards of the Dark Angels, and often seem to be biting off a bit more than they can chew, which could provide some fun story ideas for your army. If you also like the idea of playing a group that's on the back foot and needing to rebuild, then they'd be the perfect choice for you with their recent and historical losses. They're also in that kind of sweet spot of having enough lore and character to inspire you, but not too much that you feel that you can't add your own unique flavor and spin to them. If you have a lot of Chaos armies in your playgroup, then their hatred of traitors would make them a good choice. And if you just like the Dark Angels but prefer their pre-heresy colors, the Angels of Vengeance might be the perfect chapter for you. Let's move from one of our oldest examples to the newest chapter we have on this list, the Cowled Wardens. A chapter of an unknown founding, possibly the Ultima founding given that they were first introduced in the 9th edition Dark Angels Codex. The Cowled Wardens operate primarily in a region of space known as the Terras of Pyras. Officially stationed there in order to purge a savage minor Xeno species known as the Henengir, it is rumored that the chapter's true mission is to uncover a secret network of Fallen operating in the region. Although they are a fleet-based chapter, the Cowled Wardens still maintain a base in several hollowed-out asteroids within the Siricoid Belt. It is said that any fallen angels taken prisoner by the chapter are placed in an icy prison carved within an unnamed asteroid in the belt. As they are a recent addition to the lore, the chapter has only a few campaigns that we're aware of, but those campaigns are fairly notable. They joined the Dark Angels and 3/4 of all of the Unforgiven in the Battle of Idolatros against Vashtor the Archfane, Abaddon the Despoiler, and forces from the Black Legion, Death Guard, Emperor's Children, Word-Bearers, and World Eaters traitor legions. Presumably most Dark Angel successors took part, but only some, such as the Cowled Wardens, are specifically named as being present. The Unforgiven suffered heavy losses as Vashtor and Abaddon brought both the remains of the Legion's homeworld of Caliban, now the demon world of Wormwood, and the demon Primarch Angron to bear against them. They were saved from destruction, both by the arrival of Commander Dante of the Blood Angels and the forces of the Imperium Nihilus, including the returned Primarch Lionel Johnson, and Vashtor's ultimate goal of creating a device called the Dissonance Engine, causing destruction among the Chaos Fleet. Although the forces of Chaos managed to achieve their ultimate goals, the Imperial armies were able to retreat, and the Lion was reunited with his sons. Since his return, the Lion has gone on to visit the Cowled Wardens in the Terras of Pyras, eventually leading his sons to a final victory against the Henengir. The Cowled Wardens wear black power armor with purple helmets, pauldrons, and weapons, and they have gold trim and armor detailing. Their symbol is a skull and a golden cowl. As a chapter that was first introduced in 9th edition, the Cowled Wardens would be a great pick if you wanted to do an all-Primaris army, especially considering that we have so many new Primaris-era Dark Angels kits that were recently released. Given that they're focused on hunting down a large group of fallen angels, you might want to consider them if your friend is playing with a fallen army. This works for all Dark Angel successors really, but I wanted to mention it here for the Cowled Wardens, given their specific lore. They'd also be a cool choice if you wanted to get a Lionel Johnson model in your successor chapter, as he has fought alongside them, and I think he would look great in black, purple, and gold armor. But the Cowled Wardens aren't the only chapter with a close connection to their Primarch, as our next example shows. The Disciples of Caliban. Created in late M37, the Disciples of Caliban have an unusual origin. They were not part of any formal founding, but were created after the Supreme Grand Master of the Dark Angels, Anesiel, made a request to the High Lords of Terra for a new chapter to be created from their gene line. No chapter master in history has ever made a request of this nature before, and Anesiel gave no specific reason as to why the chapter should be founded. It is rumored, however, that the chapter was created in order to hunt down Cypher, the most enigmatic and infamous of all the fallen angels. Despite these unusual circumstances, the High Lords of Terra eventually approved the creation of the chapter that would go on to be the Disciples of Caliban. Only the purest Dark Angel's gene seed was used, and to this day they have the lowest tolerance for genetic deficiencies among all the Unforgiven, undergoing regular genetic screenings. A fleet-based chapter, they have campaigned far and wide across the galaxy, and are famed for their speed and ability to rapidly respond to threats. The chapter is also known to possess many relics, with each company maintaining several relic bearers among their ranks to carry them into battle in order to inspire their battle brothers to fight all the more fiercely. One of the most famous relics in their possession is the Lioness Sensum, a scroll that holds the names and deeds of the most famous battle brothers in the chapter's history. Getting one's own name inscribed on the Lioness Sensum is an immense honor. The chapter also once possessed the Heavenfall blade known as the Sword of Sanctity, a relic blade made from ancient meteoric obsidian that struck the Dark Angels' fortress monastery of the Rock shortly after the destruction of their homeworld of Caliban by the Fallen. The Sword of Sanctity was lost, and later recovered by Grandmaster Nakir of the Consecrators chapter, who now has the honor of wielding it. Perhaps the Disciples of Caliban's most interesting relic is the Lion's Mane, a stasis casket containing hairs from the head of Lionel Johnson. This relic was given to the Death Watch in the Jericho Reach in late M38, as thanks for their aid in defeating an unknown force of black-armored traitor marines. It's unknown if Lionel Johnson is aware of this relic's existence, or what he thinks of it. Despite being introduced all the way back in the 4th edition Dark Angels Codex, the Disciples of Caliban have relatively few named campaigns. They are known to have hunted and clashed with Cypher and his allies over the centuries, and are another chapter that was explicitly said to be present during the Battle of Idolatros. The Disciples of Caliban wear dark green armor with black boots, upper legs, arms, backpacks, and trim. Their symbol is a white lion rampant wielding a sword. This is another Unforgiven successor chapter that would be a great complement to any Fallen army in your playgroup, or really any Chaos army that includes Cypher. Their use of relics would also make them a great choice if you enjoy kit bashing, as making a relic bearer would be really fun, and I could see these relics being a good way to make your army look unique, and also provide some interesting story ideas with their history. You could also get some great story inspiration from the return of Lionel Johnson and his interactions with the chapter, especially with the knowledge that his sons kept a locket of his hair as a relic. This next example is another one that has a lot to offer kit bashers. The Guardians of the Covenant. Another chapter from the 4th edition Codex, the Guardians of the Covenant are from an unknown founding, and are based in the western fringes of the Imperium, calling the feudal world of Mordecus VII their home. They have defended the Segmentum Pacificus from many Xenos incursions, fighting against an incursion of a species known as the Lelith, as well as the more common orcs and Drukhari that plague the region. They have also acted in support of crusades into the Halo Stars and Veiled regions, in order to stop enemy invasions and to bring the regions into the Imperial fold. The Guardians of the Covenant are a very studious and monastic chapter, reading and reflecting on the teachings of the Emperor and their Primarch, and focusing heavily on scholarship. Adding to the monastic vibe, the Battle Brothers of the chapter are often depicted in deep red robes. All brothers are expected to aid the chapter's artificers in illuminating their armor and vehicles with extracts from their sacred tomes. As members of the Unforgiven, they are known to possess equivalents to the Deathwing and Ravenwing companies, and their version of the Inner Circle is known as the Secret Order. The chapter has taken part in many engagements over the years, such as evacuating the colony world of Forlex after it was revealed to be a Necron tomb world. They also participated in the siege of the Fenris system, joining their parent chapter and first arriving to purge the Space Wolves due to Tzeentchian treachery, and then joining the Sons of Rus in defending against the Thousand Suns once that deception was uncovered. Since the opening of the Great Rift, the master of their third company, Arvin Nardreth, led elements of 4 companies in joining the Nachmund Rift War, and the chapter also took part in the aforementioned Massacre at Darkmoor and Battle of Idolatros. The Guardians of the Covenant wear metallic gunmetal armor with black pauldrons and red robes, and their symbol is 2 crossed white swords. If you love the monastic side of Space Marines, then these guys would be a great choice. They'd also be a nice pick if you have a lot of Xenos armies in your playgroup, and could work well as an intro army if you're just getting into Warhammer with a starter set, as High Fleet Leviathan is attacking from the western edge of the galaxy in the 4th Tyrannic War, so they would be right in the path. The Guardians of the Covenant also have a striking color scheme that doesn't look too hard to paint, and, as mentioned at the start, they would be great for kit bashers, and painters could probably have a lot of fun with their illuminated armor and tanks as well. This final chapter is not actually a 100% confirmed Dark Angel successor, but as we'll see, most of the evidence points to them being Sons of the Lion. The Angels of Vigilance. Introduced all the way back in 3rd edition, the Angels of Vigilance are a suspected second founding chapter of Dark Angel's descent, although neither of these points are confirmed. They are based close to the Cadian Gate, in an orbital dock around the planet of Pervigilium, and spend most of their time battling the forces of chaos. Known for their monastic nature, as well as their devotion to their duties, each member of the chapter has sworn a blood oath to never leave their fortress monastery undefended. This oath means that, unlike most Space Marine chapters, the Angels of Vigilance have never deployed their entire complement at any one time, as at least one company must always remain stationed at Pervigilium. Several chapter masters of the Angels of Vigilance have even had their loyalty questioned by the High Lords of Terra, due to their refusal to respond to their requests for aid. No one knows exactly why this oath exists, although it is recorded that, during the Great Scouring, the Dark Angels chapter disobeyed a direct order from the High Lords of Terra and attacked the ruling caste of Vigilium. The chapter later decreed that a detachment must always remain in order to watch over the ruling caste. Later on, after the second founding, the Angels of Vigilance took up station around the planet to guard it and the Eye of Terror, providing another connection to the First Legion. Only a few of the chapter's campaigns are known, although they are fairly major. They participated in the Third War for Armageddon, sending 6 companies to the planet, and in the 13th Black Crusade, deploying 5 companies. Their disposition after the opening of the Great Rift is unknown, but a vessel of theirs appeared in the novel The Lion, Son of the Forest, as part of a Chaos warband led by a fallen angel, facing off against the returned Lionel Johnson. In-universe, this is most likely a coincidence, but it's possible that the author, Mike Brooks, put this in as an intentional reference to their possible heritage. The Angels of Vigilance wear yellowish gold armor with black power pack exhaust and detailing, and their symbol is a black-winged flaming crucible. This symbol is also very similar to that of the Fire Wing, a specialist formation in the Dark Angels Legion, responsible for the destruction of enemy command structures. There are a ton of story ideas that you could use with the Angels of Vigilance, like going into their backstory, what they're up to after the start of the Era Indomitus, and how they're reacting to the Lion's return. They'd also work well if you wanted a more standard, Codex-compliant Dark Angel successor. And they would actually work really well if you were playing against a lot of other Imperium armies, as you could always use their issues with the High Lords of Terra to justify any conflicts. So those are the 5 Dark Angel successor chapters. The First Legion has a ton of great successors with a lot of fun lore, and I definitely will be doing another video like this in the future, as well as videos on individual chapters who have enough history and appearances that they'll need their own dedicated videos. I feel the Dark Angels have been handled very well, not being neglected on either the lore or model front, and in fact I think that all of their new models look awesome. I do wish they had a bit more variety in their successors in terms of organization and combat style. There definitely is some, which we'll get into more in future videos as well, but compared to like Ultramarine and Imperial Fist successors, there's a lot more homogeneity. This does make sense and is justified in lore, and of course there's nothing stopping you from adding those differences to your own army or creating a custom chapter. Let me know which of these chapters is your favorite in the comments, and also please tell me if there's any other successors or warbands or any other faction that you'd like to see a video like this on. My next video is probably going to be another ranking video, so look forward to that. If you enjoyed this, please also let me know in the comments and consider liking and subscribing. It really helps the channel out in the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to support us more directly, consider becoming a member. For now, thank you and have a great day. Bye!